Yo, the Quintessential Quintuplets is probably one of the best harem, if not the best harem anime series of all time. Feel free to argue in the comments. But one thing we can agree on is that the ending sucks. Not because my waifu or your waifu lost, but it was an amalgamation of different mistakes that merged together to create that ending. In this video, I'm going to break down what happened to the Quintessential Quintuplets, down to its writing and pacing. Do keep in mind that this is from a perspective from an anime only. Before that, if you're asking why create a video about an ending that happened almost 2 years ago, simply put, I can't move on. Also, a new season was announced, which doesn't really help with the emptiness I felt after watching that ending, because it takes place after the ending. So yeah, without further ado, let's introduce the pieces of this puzzle. The cast.
Fuutaro kun.
Ichika is the big sister role of the Quints, the Onechan, and the one who progressed majority of the events of the story. She's messy, Asmongold's levels of messy. She's an actress and a caring sister. Although she is the one who sabotaged every attempt the sister made to get close to Fuutaro, including but not limited to yeah, I'm not reading all of that. To be fair, it's not her fault for being a snake. Throughout season 1, she tried her best to hold her feelings in so that Miku could make a move. But when Miku and Yotsuba notice that she is holding back, they encourage her to, well, don't hold back. Even if Ichika was being a snake, she slightly redeemed herself at the end of season 2, which is probably the most wholesome thing I've ever seen in an anime. So I don't hate her. In fact, I wish she redeemed herself a bit more. So let's move on to my personal best girl. Oh boy, where do I even begin? Nino, honey, my Pookie Bear. The way you drive into the paint, strike fear into your enemy's eyes, your silky smooth touch around the rim, and that gorgeous jump shot. Okay, before this becomes a Nino glazing video, I'm going to keep my words at the minimum. Got it? So, the best girl, Nino. At the start of the anime, she's pretty bratty AF. I understand why people hated her back then. She's annoying. Nino is confident she can cook and the most sensitive Quint among the sisters, but insensitive when it comes to Fuutaro. She doesn't even think about the consequences of her actions. She's the Quint who is stuck in the figurative nest. She wants the sisters to be together and hates it when outsiders get involved, i.e. Fuutaro. Nino is the cliche-defying Giga Chad, something other chundres just wish they could do. What's that? I didn't hear your confession trope? Nah, I'll just confess a second time. Physically abuse the MC to hide my feelings? Nah, I'll show kindness and be aggressive with my feelings and show it no shame. If it weren't obvious enough, from my channel name, profile pic, the banner, and the avatar talking to you right now, I'll say it clear, I love Nino. Not enough words can describe how much I love this character, which is the character that I have a trillion words to say, but can't articulate it properly. With that said, let's move on to Hatsune Miku. Miku is the third to be born among the quins. She's insecure, can't cook, the opposite of Nino, and suffers from self-esteem issues. She's silent and introverted, and makes excuses to actually do what she wants. Like, if she gets the highest score among the quins, she'll confess her feelings to Fuutaro. Well, what do you know? She's literally me. Miku is the second character to have the most proper character development, next to Nino. I can see why she's the fan favorite of the show. I mean, she's relatable and a good character. Personally speaking, I like her, but I like Nino way better. So yeah, that's everything I have to say about Miku.
誇れ。お前は強い。さあな。俺はそれを知らん。
I actually rewatched the entire series just for this video, and I found not one, not two, not three, but 5 foreshadowing. First instance, before the fireworks scene, when Yotsuba meets Fuutaro's sister, she said,
私が上杉さんと結婚すれば合法的に姉と妹に。
Second, when they were playing Monopoly, Yotsuba landed a marriage. Third, when Fuutaro was bedridden, each quint holds one of Futaro's finger. And what do you know? Yotsuba holds his ring finger. Fourth, when they were negotiating what gift they give to Fuutaro as a thanks, all the quins thought of kissing Fuutaro, except for Yotsuba, who thought of a number 1 medal. The fifth and the final one, she won a poker game. It's not really a foreshadowing, but she won nonetheless. Yotsuba is athletic, dumb, and has inferiority complex. She basically wants to be special, yet everything she does, the others can do. Except being good at sports, of course. She wanted to have a meaning in life. She wants to be useful to others and not just to her sisters. When she's in her panic mode, she copes by overworking herself and helping others to the point that she collapsed in the movie. Also, she's always thinks for her sisters first, to the point when Fuutaro and Yotsuba had their first date in season 2, she doesn't even know what she wants, and she's also the girl in the photo. Overall, I don't hate Yotsuba because she won, although preferably Miku or Nino would have been better picks. But yeah, I don't hate her.
Got ketchup mixed with lettuce cheese, cause every time I wake up in the morning I got burgers on my mind. Ketchup, mustard, mayo, fries, lettuce, and number 9. And all these yummy burgers tasty, trying to get me off my grind. But I can't let them do it, I got burgers on my mind. Bitch, I got burgers on my mind.
Itsuki is, well, Itsuki. If I didn't rewatch the series, I would have forgotten what she did or who she is. So, she's a gluten, a mother figure, and the most neglected quint, next to Ichika. If you think about it, do you remember anything she did in the series, except for impersonating the girl in the photo, or her character development in the movie? Though she is a good mother figure, not to her sisters but to Futaro's sister. Rewatching the series showed me how close Futaro's sister and Itsuki is. It's almost like they're a couple with their daughter. But yeah, that's everything I have to say for Itsuki. I don't hate her, and I don't like her either.
腹空かせてるだろうな。
ライハちゃん、おかわりしてもいいですか？いいよ。
Fuutaro is the main character of the show. He's smart, the ideal image of a perfect student. Always studying, no friends, no girlfriend, high grades, and always on the grind.
ごめん。
I like Fuutaro. He's the harem protagonist that I actually like. For one, he's funny, and second, seeing him getting closer to the Quints by forcing them to study is very wholesome, and I like it. With that said, these last sections of the video will be me explaining the reason why the ending was a disappointment. So without further ado, let's start with the pacing. The first problem was the pacing. Every good story needs a well thought out pace. If it's an important part, you can use a slower pace so the audience can take in the importance of the scene. If it's action, you want a much faster pace for, well, action. When it comes to the movie, the pace is random. Take for example, the start of the movie. The pacing was good. It flows normally like an actual movie would. Until they decided to divide the structure of the movie. In a movie, there is a structure. It starts from the bottom, it rises, climaxes, and slowly but surely goes down, which is known as the falling action. In a series, it can go on, so it can just start from the bottom, rise, climax, falling action, start from the bottom again, rinse and repeat, until it reaches its peak. No look further at One Piece or any other shonen out there. They use this to extend or continue the story, also known as story arcs. The Quintessential Quintuplets is a series, so this structure is fine. But they use a movie as a medium. To prove my point, this is how a typical movie goes. The Quintessential Quintuplets movie goes like this. If each scene having different paces was bad enough, Ichika's perspective scene is so fast that you barely even remember anything except the kiss scene. Miku's scene is slightly slow but it's not bad. But when it comes to Itsuki's, it's a huge problem. It introduced such a huge revelation only for the revelation to disappear for a matter of a few minutes. The pace was too fast for us to catch up with the events. All of this can just be fixed by not being a movie in the first place. So events can happen within an individual episodes. You can't just look at other anime movies and see big box office numbers and say, yeah, we need them money, let's make a movie. No, you should stick to what's best rather than what others are. But when you think about it, there's really not enough content for another season. The runtime of the movie is 2 hours. Divided by an average anime episode runtime, you get 5, which means if they turn this into a series instead, there's only 5 episodes. 6 or 7 if they include the cut content, the pool arc. Remember when I said there's a huge revelation in Itsuki's perspective scene? That is also a problem in of itself. Which leads me to... the next problem the Quints have is in its writing. Specifically, the introduction of Jinosuke Mudo, the biological father of the Quints. Picture this, your father ran away with the milk. Some of you might find that relatable, but it is what it is. Now imagine after a few years, your dad magically appeared out of nowhere, saying, "Son, I'm sorry I left you. I promise I won't leave you ever again." That would be a huge event. In the case of the Quintessential Quintuplets, the appearance of the father came and go within just a span of 10 minutes. Yeah, sure, it was a big deal, but not big enough to leave an impact. And another point, he never had a reason to appear out of nowhere but to give Itsuki a rushed and lame character development. Unless he had one. Think about the reason Jinosuke, the biological father, knows the existence about the Quints. Obviously he knows because he left their mother after knowing she will give birth to Quints. But think about the movie. What was the reason? It's when Ichika a successful actress appeared on a television ad? What if instead of being a stepping stone for Itsuki for a lame character development, why not make Jinosuke the villain, the final boss that all of the queens need to face? So instead, Jinosuke will manipulate Itsuki into doing his deed and manipulate each queen to get closer to Ichika and the other queen like a leech latching into its hose. And obviously, given Nino's track record, 100% no bias by the way, she along with Fuutaro will gatekeep Jinosuke from the other queens and free Itsuki from his manipulation, giving her a huge reason to doubt herself if she will ever be like her mother. As an aftermath, you can't just introduce someone as important as a biological father and just kick him off out of nowhere because Itsuki got a character development from Fuutaro. But hey, I'm just a random guy on YouTube. Speaking of Itsuki, let's talk about Itsuki. Itsuki barely has any development in the story. So basically, Itsuki wants to follow her mother's footsteps. But one of her mother's students, if you need a refresher, Itsuki met her during Itsuki's visit at her mother's grave. And then they went out to a restaurant. A lot of talk, then Itsuki pulls out her future career paper and decided to follow her mother's footsteps by becoming a teacher. But she said, no, you should follow your own path. And then that interaction went nowhere, only for it to pop up again in the movie, this time by Jinosuke, the biological father, only for Fuutaro to say, yeah, you go girl. And now she realized she can indeed become like her mother. And then she confronts her biological father, and then happy ending. Here lies the problem. There were only two characters that doubt Itsuki plus Fuutaro, but it was just playful banter, so it doesn't count. When it comes to character development like this, every character needs to doubt Itsuki so that she can prove everyone wrong, with a bit of support from Fuutaro of course. But obviously these types of developments needs an entire arc, not a one-time scene within an arc. The queens didn't give it time to cook, now it's undercooked and doesn't feel like a development at all. Another part the author neglected about Itsuki that I wanted to explore is her relationship with her mother, someone so important in her life. So basically their mother died of an undisclosed illness, and obviously the queens were devastated, while Itsuki was hit the hardest. In other words, Itsuki is implied to be the closest to her mother. We can see her in front of her mother's frame, devastated, but we didn't get to see her relationship with her mother. We saw a bit from Yotsuba's flashback, but that was not enough. You have to show us and make us care about Itsuki's relationship with her mother, so that when we see her walking in the footsteps of her deceased mother, we will root for her. Another reason why the movie failed lies in its adaptation. Tokyo Ghoul moment. Remember when Tokyo Ghoul decided to change the events of season 2? Yeah, that's what happened in the Quints. Although not as bad as Tokyo Ghoul, it's still there. Basically, Bibury Animation Studios, the studio behind the Quints season 2 and the movie, rearranged the events. So at the end of season 2, it ended at chapter 86, page 13. And then page 14 to 19 from the same chapter was cut and later on turned into a special, Quintessential Quintuplets S. And the movie starts at chapter 87 and once again stops at page 13. And the remaining pages up to chapter 90 to 91 was moved in between the moment Fuutaro confesses his feelings to Yotsuba and the scene where Yotsuba accepts his feelings. The problem lies in why events were in order. The reason why Yotsuba's flashback happened first before the confession was to add backstory to Yotsuba's character, not an excuse on why Fuutaro chose Yotsuba. Let's use Avengers Infinity War as an example. Imagine if instead of knowing Thanos' backstory as the film progresses, what if instead right before the snap we'll randomly get a flashback of his past and why he's trying to wipe out half of the universe, and then immediately back to the present after he snapped his fingers. Obviously on its own, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Shonen action does this many times before and it's all good. But It takes away the reason why following Thanos and his journey collecting rocks was a good thing to begin with. Back to Yotsuba, showing her backstory first is better so that we can know who she is before we stare at our screens and cry because our waifu lost. Her flashback shouldn't be an excuse, it should be context, not reason for Fuutaro to pick up her because Fuutaro is a fictional character. He can't see her flashback like the viewers. Speaking of Fuutaro, have you ever wondered what did Fuutaro see in Yotsuba that made her special than the other quints? What was his reason?
あいつらの家庭教師をやれたことを誇りに思う。だが、お前がいなければ、俺はとっくにつまずいていた。
So does that mean his reason is that Yotsuba was always there? How about the other quints? They were there as well. From him getting sick to hanging out with him, it doesn't make any sense. Firstly, Fuutaro barely had any development in the first place, which actually contributes to the series' failure. We weren't given an insight into what Fuutaro is, except the surface level stuff like I mentioned before, which is bad because now the author is making us guess what reason drove Fuutaro to choose Yotsuba instead of the other candidates. Don't get me wrong, Yotsuba had a great backstory, but the problem lies when we as the viewer don't even know why he picked Yotsuba in the first place. We need to know Fuutaro in a deeper level so that when the inevitable happens, we'll go, understandable, have a great day. But hey, this is a harem show. The first thing we want are dakimakuras and figure sales. I don't hate the series. In fact, I really love this series, especially Nino and her interaction with her sisters, and how wholesome it is. Speaking about the bad stuff about this series is a good thing. It's like calling our girlfriend's bad side so her good sides gets highlighted even more. No matter how much time passes, I'll still remember this series for as long as I live. It's special to me. Would have wished it were better, but it's still good even if it had bad sides to it. So in conclusion, Nino is peak.